how's it going? Welcome to another episode of Slidin Into My DMs. Hello to all of my DMs. We have Corey. We've got
alive.
Preston. Oh yes, welcome back. Hold on, and Mr. Rogers here. Thanks guys for being here. Yeah, so welcome back to the land of the living, Corey. We're super happy.
Thank
to have
you.
How did you get out?
Well, I feel like I owe you an apology. If I were a better YouTuber, you would have. We would have got more likes on the video, and your brother Scott wouldn't have had to pony up to make up the difference between the likes and the.
So actually, it wasn't Scott. What happened was I had to make deals with certain entities that may come about later as consequences for me and for the channel, and things that I'm now obligated to do, but we shall find out in the future what those are.
I'm nervous.
So you're a warlock now.
Kinda.
He's part tiefling. Well, awesome.
Yeah, I just have the tail. You can't see it, and it's just like the tiny little vestigial
Just
nub.
a nub.
Yep.
Tail nub. That's great.
Nice.
Like Shallow Hal?
Yep.
All right, we've got a bunch of stuff to talk about today.
Yes.
In addition to the usual stuff, I feel like I need to maybe just do a quick around the horn, get your guys' thoughts on the ruling that we had from Mr. JC himself, from Jeremy Crawford. Super excited that we got a ruling, frankly, and again, once again, thanks to all those of you who tweeted at him and got the response. If you haven't yet seen the short that I posted yesterday on that, that kind of is, I guess, my response to his ruling about no custom lineage with elven accuracy. Check it out right there.
Ding.
So yes, so again, just in case those who don't know, I've often advocated for, since Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, taking custom lineage, calling yourself a custom elf, whether that's a custom half elf or whatever, and thereby qualifying for the elven accuracy feat. We've talked about it briefly, but I'd love to, for I guess the viewers, to get your guys' thoughts on it, because it's a little bit of a hot topic right now. So yeah, Jeremy Crawford basically said, no, you can't do that. And
Boo.
And yeah, I mean, I posted my response, but I thought I'd give you guys just a minute to give us yours. So who wants to go first?
I want to go first here because this is absolutely ridiculous. The whole point of custom lineage and it coming out was so that we could break away from the fact that your race defined your traits, right? That was the whole point of it, because they were trying to be more inclusive and more or less stereotypy with their races. And then coming out and saying, oh yeah, but if you take custom lineage, you may look like an elf, but really you're what? What are you then? Are you a human? Can you take human feats? Are you like, there's no clear answer on what you are, because custom lineage is not the name of a race. It's just a lineage that it's ridiculous.
I guess I would. My assumption is that you are a bloopity burp race. You know
Exactly.
what I mean? Like you make it up, and you're like new to this world. Nobody's ever heard of you before. Or maybe you just exist in your homebrew world, and you're a special, new, unique something. You know what I mean? And nobody can pronounce it because it's bloopity burp race.
Yeah, and it's completely ridiculous to me, because most of the people, we even had a homebrew conversation about just giving everybody a feat at level 1, because people kept taking custom lineage or variant human.
Right.
And it's like, if that's already the case, then what else is custom lineage for? And it's so that you can specifically have your stats the way you want them, but still be the race that you want to. And I think that's the wrong direction to go.
Yeah. I think the way around this is, maybe my elf is nearsighted and he looks like an elf, but he's not an elf. So he's completely nearsighted. And then he gets magic glasses. Wow. He has elven accuracy because of the glasses. Bam. Problem fixed.
I don't know. I think I also disagree with the ruling. But I think there's a fix to it, and it's maybe just in a newer manual that comes out, or I don't know, some publication down the road that just unshackles feats from race altogether. And I think if they did that, then it doesn't matter. You can now be custom lineage, and it doesn't matter. You just pick whatever. Yeah. So elven accuracy then just becomes like accuracy.
Yeah,
and I think that's maybe the route they're going to go.
Yeah, and it could also be that they're going to disconnect attributes from races as well.
Yeah.
And that could be in the future book. That could be in Van Richten's, where they give that official ruling of your attributes aren't defined by your race, kind of thing. But at any table of mine, you can be custom lineage and be whatever race you want from here on out. Like there is no, I'm not going to follow that advice. Sorry, Jeremy Crawford. I know that you're really popular, but you're not the end all be all for my table. Everybody can have a custom lineage and be an elf if they want to, and still get those benefits.
Yeah, and I think, you know, to his credit, Jeremy Crawford himself would and has said, you know, many times, like, hey, you know, do what you want at your table ultimately, right?
Yeah.
And you know, this is maybe how we intended this rule to be interpreted, but at the end of the day, you know, the DM is always going to have the final say. Yeah. So,
but Preston, I draw the line at sentient bread.
I wish we could
slime.
get just more from him on like why, like I just want to know why the ruling is that way.
Sure.
Because like fine, that's the ruling, but I want more than just, you know, a tweet. Like maybe like a 5-minute video explanation,
like a thought process of
this is why, because maybe it makes sense and I just don't know. I don't have all the information. I don't know.
Yeah.
But based off of the, you know, 150 character tweet.
Right. I think, I guess what I, and I talked about this in my shorts comments, so I don't need to reiterate it too much, but, you know, to me, I don't hate it so much because I feel like it kind of reintroduces more choice and options where there's not necessarily a clear, you know, statistical advantage choice, you know, then it doesn't feel like a choice to me because I care a lot about the statistical advantage. But also, I guess I would say he did just actually like 30 minutes ago, as of this recording, follow up to his original tweet and post a couple additional tweets giving maybe a little more clarification, but it's probably still not going to satisfy you, I don't think, Mr. Rogers. I think what's a little confusing probably to all of us is that it's seemed like lately all of the content that's been coming out has been sort of moving towards sort of opening up you know, the character creation and unshackling race from basically everything, you know, from your attributes to et cetera, you know, with the lineages from the Gothic lineages, you know, that were announced recently. All that stuff kind of makes it feel like, hey, you know what, you create your character however you want to, and we're not going to tell you that, you know, you can't play an elf who happens to have these particular qualities or traits. And it seemed to me, and I guess to us, and also to, well, most of my viewers, based on the comments that I've been getting, that that was both welcome and also, I guess, that people were interpreting, you know, custom lineage as kind of a step in that direction. And so to sort of scale it back and say, well, no, I mean, you're not an elf. You're something new and different. And so you don't get to qualify for the racial feats that we released in Xanathar's. So yeah, I don't know. It feels like a step in a different direction than where they've kind of been going lately. And that's what I think was surprising.
And I'd seen some of the comments before on some of the YouTube videos that you were doing, where some of them were mentioning how it's good to have kind of clarity on where they stand at the moment, because, you know, for him, maybe, you know, who knows, maybe, you know, a year down the line, they have content planned to basically kind of bridge that gap or fix those problems that we're seeing now. But for me, it's like, okay, if we have Elven accuracy and we have some of these things that are very class specific, for me as a player, if I don't want to feel limited, I need to have those on all the races. Like if they're going to have those specific things, I'd like to see more of that. But ultimately, I just feel like it's so much easier for them if they want to just, I don't know, if they back off on the whole.
Maybe if I could put that a different way, and not to put words in your mouth, I guess. Preston, but it's almost like, from my perspective anyway, if Elven, you know, lots of races have racial feats after post Xanathar's. Elven accuracy for the number crunchers is a very, very powerful one, much more powerful than pretty much any other of the racial feats, I guess, depending on your role and what you're trying to accomplish as a character. And so tying it to one specific race almost makes it feel like, well, like everyone's going to be a half elf now. You know what I mean? Because you're sort of, before it was, well, everyone's going custom lineage, and now it's like, okay, well, now everyone's just going to go half elf.
Yeah.
Because they get four ability bumps, right? 2+2 in one ability score, +1 in 2 others, and you can qualify for elven accuracy and all these things. It's like, okay, yeah, that's kind of the statistical front runner now, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, my official new opinion is race should be lore dependent, not actual gameplay dependent. And I don't think that any of those feats, I think those feats should be rebranded as accuracy and require maybe a specific
And
dexterity,
fortitude instead of dwarven fortitude.
Because like to wear armor, you have to have a certain strength score, so maybe you have to have a certain dex score to get accuracy. That makes perfect sense to me.
Except elven accuracy as written right now can also benefit if you're making attacks with charisma or wisdom or intelligence or dexterity, not just dexterity. So, but I don't know, maybe it's you have to have a minimum score of X in, whatever
one of
feat you're going to take to,
yeah. And I feel like that's probably where JC's kind of whole view set is that he's just trying he doesn't want to open the floodgates on his side and then cause a lot of problems for a lot of DMs at tables and arguments. He wants to clamp it off and then probably fix it down the line.
I wouldn't be surprised to see them, make a change in the future on this, like we've kind of talked about, whether it's, changing the name of the feat and completely removing racial prerequisites from it, or just saying, okay, on second thought, nah, fine, custom lineage can qualify for these things, but no more than 1 or maybe 2. If you're a half elf, half orc, then oh boy. Now my brain's going, oh man, if I could get that extra brutal critical from the orc guy and the elven accuracy.
Close the gates.
All right, so enough about that. Let's jump into our short ruling question for the day.
All right.
This has come up. Let's see, 2 weeks ago, I posted a video on the anti-mage, and it's been one of my more popular videos. Whoosh, whoosh. Hands are wrong. There, it's right there. Yeah. Anyway, and I've had many comments saying, you can't do this. And so I wanted to get your guys' take on it. So I went with a Shadow Monk, Way of the Shadow Monk, for a lot of this build, right? And the Way of the Shadow Monk gets the ability to spend key points and cast the darkness spell. And what I was advocating for doing in a pinch, if you needed to, because they also, as you guys know, at level 6, Shadow Monks get Shadow Step. And here's what it says. Here's what Shadow Step says. At 6th level, you gain the ability to step from one shadow into another. When you are in dim light or darkness, as a bonus action, you can teleport up to 60 feet to an unoccupied space you can see. That's the key here. So let me reiterate that. You can teleport up to 60 feet to an occupied space you can see that is also in dim light or darkness. And then things happen. But basically, it's a teleport from dim light or darkness into dim light or darkness, right? So I was advocating doing this, and people thought that I couldn't. And here's my question. Could I cast the darkness spell? And then as long as I were in dim light or darkness currently, shadow step to that magical darkness. People were saying you cannot do it because unless you have like devil's sight or something that lets you see in magical darkness, right? They're saying you can't do that because you can't see in that magical darkness. And so you can't teleport to it. And my well, you know what? I'll tell you what my response was after I hear from you guys. So you tell me what you think.
All right, I'll go first this time because I think I'm going to disagree with Corey. I can tell by his facial expression. I think they're right. Technically, you can't see into that darkness. So unless this darkness spell like did like an additional 10 feet of dim light, then maybe you could go to the 10 feet of dim light and then step into the darkness. But magical darkness and darkness are different things.
They are.
Technically.
Can I be bad?
One requires
Can I be
double sight, and the others.
bad DM today? I'm never bad DM.
Well, bad DM is what Dallin's saying. So
I'm bad DM right now. Yeah. I mean, I think I would allow it at my table. I'm just saying, I technically
rules as written.
Rules as written. Yes.
Okay.
I agree with what Dallin's saying, but can you not also see the edge of that darkness? And that edge of that darkness.
But you have to go into. It says into. You have to see into.
Well, okay. Let me just reread this. It says, as a bonus action, you can teleport up to 60 feet to an unoccupied space you can see that is also in dim light or darkness.
Right, and
so it's kind of on the edge.
The edge of it, would it be considered in darkness?
Well,
no,
like
because the edge you would be on the light side of it, right? You're not.
Is this a perfect cube of darkness? Then is that what we're saying? Or
I mean, if it's there,
I mean, it's a 5x5 square. If you're looking at a grid, yes. If you're doing theater of mind, then like
I think like it would be kind of a hard kind of depending on the DM. I would probably allow it just because. To me, it's not saying it teleports you outside that space that you can see. It teleports you to that space. And if half of it's in, half of it's out, whatever. That's, if you've got a little bit of space. Otherwise, I feel like with some of those feats that are so situational, you're going to be fighting to try and find ways to use it. And if it costs you a whole turn to cast darkness and then do that to try and get some kind of a combo, I'm fine with it. I mean, rules is written. I think I'd probably agree that I don't think that it's something that would be for instance, if you went Adventure League or any of those others, I don't know that they would allow that. But
right, what do you think, Corey?
All right, I'm a human monk. Mm-hmm. I can't shadow step at all because human monks cannot see in darkness. Right. They don't have dark vision, and that right there, first of all, super limiting and dumb if its rules is written for a monk, but there is not going to be a dungeon master out there that's going to argue that a human monk can't use shadow step because they can't see in darkness.
Right.
Like, so here's the problem that I have. I can still see a space even if it's in complete darkness. If I'm outside in the middle of the night, I can see that there is another spot over there. I can't see what's there. So maybe as a GM, you have to say, okay, give me a roll and see if you hit a space that's unoccupied. But I don't think that honestly, like it just means A, you're crippling anybody that doesn't have dark vision. Yeah. And B, it's just a stupid way to read that rule, and I don't like it. And I don't care if rules as written would say that you can't see that space. I can see dark spaces.
Right. I've played just a straight human on the campaign several times. Well, straight human, whatever. Human. I played a human, not a variant human.
Maybe he was straight. Who knows?
You're talking about.
It wasn't part of the campaign. But anyways, it is very limiting because everybody else has dark vision, and you're like, "Can I hold your shoulder while we walk through here? I can't see anything."
It sucks.
So it totally sucks. So yeah, I can see it being ruled that way, and I think on my table I would rule it.
Yeah.
Especially if you're in broad daylight and then there's this sphere of magical darkness. Yeah. It's like, okay, I can see the darkness, I know that edge, I can teleport to it. That to me, that is I understand that rules as written could be interpreted either way. I think that it's stupid to interpret it as any other way as being able to shadow step into it.
Yeah. And I think, but my responses were essentially in line with what you've been saying, Corey. It's like, So I have to be able to see in the darkness in order to teleport there. That doesn't seem like that's what the description tells me. And again, like if I'm human and I don't have, dark vision, like does that mean I can only teleport to dim light now because I can't see in darkness? Right. What it says is, you can teleport up to 60 feet to an unoccupied space that you can see that is also in dim light or darkness. Not that you can teleport up to 60 feet to an unoccupied space that you can see inside of that is also in dim light or darkness. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I don't know. That was my interpretation. Obviously, there is room for other interpretation and some people might rule differently, but
one more point of order that I should bring up since we want to be as equal as possible with the Way of Shadow at level 3, you do get dark vision as a key point spell. So they do give you the option to be able to see into darkness if you normally can't. However, who's going to spend 2 key points to cast dark
you
vision?
got to spend dark vision, and then you got to spend darkness, and it's taking all of your actions. It's like, you know what? I could have just walked there. Never mind.
Find a magic store, get some dark vision goggles or night vision goggles. Yeah. Problem solved.
All right. Cool. Thank you. And we're back. Thank you, sponsors. So let's see. We're going to move on to our larger conversation topic now. And I want to start it off with a little story that the 3 of you are very familiar with because you got to witness firsthand like 2 weeks ago. So we're currently playing a couple of campaigns, but in this one, Preston is acting as our DM right now. It's a homebrew campaign, and I am playing a death cleric. And we're getting close to what feels like a climactic moment in the arc here. And long story short, we had been as a band of mercenaries, the Bronze Battalion. We had sort of been played against. Well, we in my character's from my character's perspective, he was feeling like we were being played against, used, I should say, by a couple of different warring factions within Waterdeep that both seemed to have fairly nefarious intent. And despite all of my questioning, my character's questioning, I wasn't able to get answers to, what the motivations of these various groups were. And we'd kind of been hired by both of them to do some things. Anyway, we end up getting into a fight with one of these groups that the other one had sort of been trying to goad us into fighting, I suppose I would say. And we had agreed to, well, anyway. It's a long story.
Gang war full of intrigue.
Yes, like how you're leaving the part out that would justify the other side of this. Go on, though.
Okay. So anyway, we get into this fight with faction A, I'll say. And meanwhile, faction B jumps in and to say, haha, we're here to take you down and help these guys take you down. And my character was not a big fan of either faction, frankly. And when faction B showed up, the first thing that the leader of faction B did was decide to, as opposed to sort of help in the fight and help defend her, her companions and things like that, she goes and starts sort of pilfering things from faction A's desk that she's going to then turn around and sell for a profit and stuff like that. And that really upset my character, who was already kind of on the brink, right? And basically I ended up, and I really hesitated to do this. I'm not going to lie to you guys. Because I was like, I can't do this. This is gonna, like, the group's gonna be upset with me. Like, you know what I mean? If my character goes this route, but I was like, I really feel like my character, like, this is what they would do. And so anyway, my character ends up like attacking the leader of faction B right after we kill the leader of faction A, essentially. And everyone's like, whoa. And anyway, it ended up leading to this conflict, right? And that's kind of what I want to get at today.
Split the party.
It was a double cross.
Morally splitting the party, yeah.
And Mr. Rogers' character sort of sided with mine and said, hey, I've got your back. And most of the other characters, it seemed like, were either like, ooh, I'm going to stay out of this, or very much like what the hell are you doing? You know what I mean? Why did you do this? And so
yeah, there was one character in particular that was very much like full on, like ready to threaten you and do unto you as you did unto them,
for
basically.
Sure.
And then everybody else was kind of just trying to figure things out. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so
calm down.
It led to, if nothing else, I guess I would say, a very memorable in-game moment.
Yep.
That sort of caused our characters, who up to this point had been, very sort of lockstep and, we've got the same goals, to have this sort of rift. And we're going to have to, that's where we're going to pick up tonight. So this is a timely conversation for us, right? Because we're kind of
going to work through the skeletons in the closet beforehand. And then when we get there, we're feeling better about it.
So here's my question. How do you guys think about and handle conflict in game, and I want to talk about both character conflict between characters and even when that sort of boils over into like personal and IRL, conflict between your players. So let's talk about character in-game character conflict first. How do you handle conflict between, and I'm just going to ask a bunch of questions and you guys answer whichever ones you want. We'll just kind of talk about it. Okay. How do you handle conflict between your players' characters? Do you view player conflict as a good thing or a bad thing? Why not? Is it something that you sort of look for ways to maybe actively almost promote for the sake of, a good story? Or do you maybe look for ways to help them resolve their conflict? And so can't we all just get along and be friends? Yeah, well, I'll stop there. What are your guys' thoughts?
Preston, why don't you go first? Both Corey and I have already gone first.
Yep, I was just about to say that.
As characters, I treat that a little bit differently, where I think it's all too often in D&D, you have a party that comes together and says, hey, let's band together to get some treasure. And then you get the treasure. And then what is it that's actually keeping them together? What is the actual threads that bind them through fate or for whatever other reason? And sometimes conflict can either be one of those inciting moments where either things break apart or things are forged more strongly together. And I don't mind it, like if there's those kind of conflicts in a game, and if I do see that there's a lot of these two players are constantly badgering at each other and it is starting to grate on one of the players as a person, then I might try and work a way for them to have an inciting or an inflection moment where something happens and they caught them red-handed with their hand in their bag of holding, pilfering gold out,
or sticking turkey or turtle jerky in there,
sticking turtle jerky and oranges, or and it's one of those ones where I think it can lead to a fun kind of play, because then you have to think as a player. It's like, okay, how would I react to this? Like, I know how I would react to this, but how would my character, are they going to come out swinging? Are they going to threaten them to death? Or are they going to say, take the higher path and, make the other person feel terrible or guilty about it for the rest of their life? I don't know.
What do you think, Corey?
So we'll focus first on character, and then we can talk about players.
We'll talk about players after everyone's.
First thing that I like to do is I don't encourage it, but I don't hate it. I think it's perfectly fine for a group of dysfunctional people to have dysfunction in it, because if everybody is a military unit in the campaign, then having people who are constantly questioning the superior officer makes it a little harder. However, if it's some sort of like nebulous group that came together and banded together for whatever reason, but like Preston said, maybe gold or maybe a treasure, and that's all they're here for, then interpersonal conflicts can arise, and I would not try to discourage those. I would be like, oh yeah, talk about this, let's figure it out. Also, whenever I do have a conflict in game, I do try to make ways for that to be resolved favorably within the story itself. Maybe two of the characters get separated and one has to save the other, and that creates a stronger bond between the two of them, or something similar to that, where these two characters who didn't really like each other might have a little bit more respect for each other and understand each other's point of view a little bit more going forward.
I like that.
It's like the bickering brother and sister, and then one of them, when you lose one of them, their one realizes how much they actually needed the other.
And as a player, I like conflict in a game between other players, not on the level of like annoying somebody or just constantly being a thorn in somebody's side.
Sure.
But when in real life do you not have some sort of conflict going on? It makes the RP element of the game real. It makes the game feel that much more grounded in reality and not just some nebulous fantasy world. It's like, hey, these are real problems and stuff like this could happen in this situation, and it does create a chance for you to have a really locked in bond with players after you resolve that. The hard part is from the DM side, making sure that it gets resolved and everyone feels okay, and making sure people recognize that, hey, these are the characters saying this isn't the person saying this. Like they're acting the way their character would. They're not personally calling you out or hating on you. This is just a rift between characters.
Right.
And as long as everybody can agree to that beforehand and understands that, hey, I'm my character, I'm not me saying this to you, then it's entirely acceptable at the table.
Yep. And I remember our conversation had plenty of that while this conflict was going on. We were in like the out of character chat going, loves, hearts, we're okay, everything's fine. We're really like, this is okay.
Yeah, you know, it's actually something that I've really enjoyed that we have taken to doing lately is we have a little Google Hangouts chat that we talk in, but then we also have a separate chat that is in character chat. And we do a lot of our sort of offline role play and therapy. There. And I love it because it gives us a chance kind of throughout the week to kind of continue to play a little bit, but also I think sort of helps maybe streamline the gameplay sessions, that so when we get, you know, to game night, we're sort of ready to go. We've kind of had some chats and had some conversation maybe during the short rest or the long rest or whatever that we were taking.
It lets you formulate your thoughts before you say something stupid too. Which I've loved, because in the heat of the moment I wanted like I'm gonna attack you, but like no, and I sit and type it out. I'm like, okay, that's a little too harsh. Like delete that. Okay, this is better. Okay, that's what my character would say. And just fine tune it to make sure you're not acting out of like the heat of the moment and making sure it's correct, the right thing you want to say.
And I definitely encourage in character chat for your group too at home, just because if nothing else, you can do a campfire scene where everybody sits around and talks with one another and describes, you know, talks about their characters and talks about stories, and that helps you build your backstory, and that helps you build camaraderie with your fellow other player characters, and so your characters are stronger for it.
It gives some
sentimental attachments.
It gives some meat to what otherwise has the risk of being a little meatless, I think, when it comes to like, okay, and we're going to end there for our play session tonight, and when we pick up tomorrow, like it's 2 weeks later and you guys have been traveling on the road to Waterdeep or whatever. And it's like, great. Like if we can maybe role play a little bit of that, and we're getting off topic now, but I don't care. If we can role play a little bit of that, and maybe, you know, tell stories to one another, play jokes on each other, like have our characters get to know each other a little bit better. It just feels a little bit more like now, you know, when you resume session, it's like some time has gone by and we've gotten to know each other better. And it just feels a little more, solid, I guess, as far as relationships between your characters go. I will add, I think that when we look back on this time in this campaign, that this will be maybe and I don't mean to, I hope this doesn't sound egotistical, I think it will be one of our favorite moments from this, and not because of anything that I did, but because of what the resulting conflict, right? And the way we sort of had to, you know, come to terms with things, and, you know, maybe fight, but then maybe make up, and, you know, have these moments. And frankly, I mean, when I think back on some other campaigns that we've done in the past, you know, a lot of my favorite and most memorable moments come from those kinds of things, right? A friend of ours that our viewers haven't met yet, who also plays with us, Reese, in our first campaign, he played this half-orc barbarian, and his character and my character didn't get along very well. Why is I always me? There's something about me.
Always you.
Hey,
it's just the optimizer in you, just taking out your
I'll be antagonistic
for an unoptimized.
Make you feel better.
But we didn't get along particularly well, and he had this sentient evil sword that ended up he tried to kill me on a couple of different occasions, but one time at least he was sort of possessed. I think the first time he was not possessed, he was just mad at me, and I don't remember why. But anyway, like, and I think we did a pretty good job of being like, we're cool, everything's good, no, this is fine, like, this is our characters, this isn't us, you know. But yeah, he got possessed by this magic sword, and it took all of us just to take him out, because he was a freaking bear totem barbarian that is impossible to kill, and we all had
with a sword that can siphon your life. And
but that was like one of my favorite moments from that campaign, right? So yeah, I think there's something to be said for.
I feel like that it's that human element that really, like Dallin was kind of touching on, and like everyone, I guess, beating the dead horse, but I feel like that having that added human element of the emotion of like not just walking into a dungeon and getting the loot and killing whatever's inside and leaving. It adds that actual, like, there's always going to be friction. Whenever there's more than one person, there's going to be some sort of friction somewhere.
Yeah.
And by putting that in there and charging that kind of emotional environment, I think brings a lot more interest to the story than it would if it was just, at least for me. There might be people who just prefer doing murder hoboing. That's totally fine.
What if
some people like TNG, some people like Deep Space Nine?
Yep. But we all know which one's some more.
What if you have a group of players who are all pretty, I don't know, they're all just like, yep, we'll all just go along and we're all going to be friends and we're all going to do the same thing all the time and la la la, kill the dragon, take the loot. I mean, do you guys think that there's any merit in looking for ways to try to create a little friction in the interest of maybe improved role player storytelling? And if so, what ideas might you have?
I'd say unless it starts to become stale, the story becomes stale and becomes stagnated, then no, you don't really need to force those moments. But if it starts to become stale and we're just doing the same thing over and over, as a DM, I might try and drop some seeds like, oh, this person's past ties to your past in a way you're not going to like, and slowly build that out until eventually it boils to a head and we have that Captain America Civil War moment. And you're like, oh my gosh, you killed my mom or whatever.
Yeah.
So,
cool, but I wouldn't force it.
Sorry. One thing that I like to do is introduce morally questionable choices, where both choice seems valuable, whether or not you let this one person go because you helped them or kill them because they belong to another evil spy organization, to use our Bronze Battalion example here again. That's a questionable situation that can go either way. And to be honest, you can see both sides of it immediately. It's just, what does your character pick? And I think those make the best conflicting moments. And I'll try and sprinkle those throughout just so people it ratchets up the tension just a little bit. But I don't like to do it so much that everybody's constantly butting heads. I want those plot lines to go, oh, and then resolve again back together. So
exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so let's move on to the second part of the question, which is, how do you avoid player conflict, or I should say character conflict, from boiling over into player character in real life, conflict between the actual people who are playing the game. And then maybe also, when you have that conflict between your players at your table, how do you resolve it?
What's Corey's number one rule for D&D?
Communication.
That's right. As a DM, it's your job to kind of notice tells to see if things are boiling over into player territory, because there are very clear signs that people are getting upset outside of character too, rather than just in character. And I think the way that our group does it, where like every now and then we just take a break and we go, by the way, I agree with you outside of the game, but this is my character speaking, and doing things like that kind of separates that really nicely.
And you can just say, communicate. Let's talk it out.
Yep.
What do you guys think?
It's important to remember the reason why we're all doing this, and it's because we love this game, right? We all want to play this game, and so as long as we can always keep that as the end goal and the top of priority and the top of mind, then we'll just always be able to resolve whatever it is, because we know we want to play together. We like our table. We like who we're playing with. We want to play this game, and we can, whatever it is, we can work it out. We can figure a way through it.
Yeah. Any extra additional thoughts, Preston?
So in like counseling and stuff, that's always like one of their ways to try and cope and talk, right? Okay, don't say you or whatever. Let's talk about it as though it's this other thing that's not related to the person you're talking to, and be able to do that. And I think D&D facilitates that in some way. So like if you're not very good with conflict and you're not very good with, like in real life, if it's something that you absolutely run from in some cases, that might be useful to as a tool for D&D to help you to get used to that and be able to talk about it and do it in a way that doesn't make it feel like you're being attacked personally.
Yep.
But if it does, what I'd say never do as a player, don't ever allow like your real life, whatever's angering you or whatever in real life, bleed into what your character is saying. Because when that happens, then there starts to be like this like undertone of agitation, and then the other person starts to pick up on it, and it festers and it festers. And if somebody doesn't say something, whether it's the DM or the player or somebody else, and just say, hey, you said that thing or you did that thing and it really kind of bothered me, do you mind not doing that again? It's as simple as that.
I feel statements are great. That's a simple technique to be like, hey, I feel like you're not taking my feelings into account with this situation, or I feel like you are taking over too much of the speaking role when I'm the charisma character, things like that, and discussing that and just kind of telling each other how that kind of affects you in game also creates this environment of we're open with each other and we're willing to kind of de-escalate by basically understanding each other and having empathy.
Yeah.
And if you're on the receiving end of that, be a listener, because the worst thing that can happen is if someone puts themselves out there and they're vulnerable and they're opening up like that, and you just stick the knife in and twist it. It's just going to get worse, and that group's going to fall apart.
We just had a minor conflict between us player wise that kind of resolved in that way, where we were like, oh yeah, I really didn't take that into account and I'm so sorry, and we worked through it like that. But it was because we were willing to be open with each other and not just, no, you're wrong.
I think the one thing to keep in mind too, whenever conflict arises, is just to remember, like, people aren't saying things out of like nefarious reasons for the most part. I mean, you can't assume everything, but assume that they're not trying to intentionally attack you or hurt your feelings or take something out on you. And as long as you can understand we're all trying to make this better for not just myself, but for you and for all of us, then it's easier to say, I'm sorry. It's easier to say, no, you're right, or no, I think we can come to a compromise or whatever. There's always a way through it if you can understand the other person's they're not coming after you.
Right. And at the end of the day, it's just a game.
Exactly.
It's just a game. But I think you're right, Mr. Rogers. I think empathy is the key, really. Trying to, like Preston said too, listen, but also put yourself in their shoes and see if you can't understand, why they're saying the things that they're saying, why they're doing the things they're doing, whether it's, because they're going through a rough patch right now in their life, they had a bad day, they're tired, and or, maybe they really are hurt because of something that you did or said, and how are they feeling and why are they acting this way? And typically, I think when we can do that, that's the first step to good conflict resolution.
Quick cut to the empathy song from Adventure Time.
I think that's copyrighted.
Oh, yeah, probably.
If it ever gets to the point that it becomes toxic and it's repetitive and the other person isn't listening, it's okay to walk away from the table. Because like I said, this is a game. There are other tables. Yeah. You will find another one, and it's okay.
Let me ask maybe one final question. And I don't know if you guys have an answer to this, but what do you think are the biggest causes of conflict between players, so that maybe we can try to keep our eye out for them and help avoid them when they surface?
If you have a blade singer, don't take, what was that rod that I had that's shown in bright light in 20 feet?
The rod of the Mace of Disruption.
Mace of Disruption. Don't take a Mace of Disruption.
Are we in dim light? Okay, good. I get advantage. And then Preston pulls out his shining
look at this cool magic item I have, guys. And then
bright light in 20 feet. I'm like,
Colby's over there like burning holes in the back of my head.
I would say try not to have characters that have completely opposing alignments. I mean, we all have to journey together for some reason. So why would a lawful evil and a lawful good be working together? I mean, maybe that's an interesting story, but chances are that's going to cause just too much conflict.
You think, so and you think that would potentially boil over into?
I think it could, because people are going to just constantly be tugging their way, and they're
I'm not having fun because you're the opposite of me, and then that's making him I would also say that don't argue with other players about rules. Leave it up to your GM. That is what they're there for. Just say your piece, if somebody wants to say their piece too, and then the GM, and this is my how I do it when I'm a DM, I step in, I say, okay, here's my official ruling. We're done talking about this, like basically just shut it down before it gets to be this huge argument between people, because that's not going to be fun for anybody if there's just two people shouting over each other.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Bringing snacks, that always helps too.
Mhm.
Everybody loves a snack. So
It
just
shuts
make
them
sure you
up.
have snacks.
If somebody's got food in their mouth, they can't talk and argue. So
Exactly.
It's perfect.
All right. Awesome. Well, thanks, guys. I think that was those were some great tips and tricks and ideas. Yeah. Again, I guess I will just say, for my money, having conflict between characters, not players, has always made for a richer role play and story experience. But again, I think the key, maybe Corey, like you said, you don't let it fester. You don't let it go on forever. Find a way to, bring it back. And the great thing about you as a DM is that, you have the ability to make the story kind of go that way. And now somebody's falling off a cliff and he's hanging by one hand, and the only person that's close enough to grab him in time is the guy that he's been fighting with, and whatever.
And if it happens and that one character goes, I'm not going to save him, I'm going to do something else, then that creates a great story moment where the rest of the party has to deal with that. But again, you don't want to let that boil over to your players and let the player's next character come in for revenge and only revenge, because that's not going to be not going to be fun. However, if anybody ever left my character to die, I wouldn't consider it a personal slight. I'd be like, oh my gosh, that's such a cool story moment. I can't wait to see what comes of it.
All right. Well, thanks, guys. Oh yeah. Well, no, why don't you go ahead?
I just wanted to give a big thumbs up. Congratulations in our Reddit stuff. Art of a Vice. It's not Art of Avis. It's Art of a Vice. She has her Kitsune Barbarian by the name of Trixie. And she was our winner for the most upvoted comment for February. So there's a new one on Reddit now for March. So if you have anything that you want us to showcase and that kind of stuff, go ahead and submit it there. We'll see at the end of the month, who's the most upvoted, and I look forward to seeing those submissions. So I just wanted to give a big thumbs up. Thank you.
Thanks, Art of Advice.
Those who submitted.
Yeah. That's a lot of fun.
All right. Well, thank you guys for your time. Appreciate it. And for everyone for watching and listening, appreciate it. Please do all of the things, the likey, subscribey, sharey, commenty things. And yeah, love you guys. Hope you have a fantastic day, and we will talk soon.